Most people have forgotten this, but step back with me to a cold morning in the 1960s, when British schoolyards were still waking up long before the first bell. You can almost feel the frost on the windows and hear the echo of shoes on concrete as children arrived early, not to play, but to start their duties. While classrooms were still dim and the corridors smelled faintly of floor polish, pupils were already sweeping, organizing, carrying, and preparing the school for the day ahead. You won't believe how normal these duties once were, especially when compared to today's carefully structured routines and safety-focused rules. Back then, responsibility was handed straight to the children, and they took it in their stride. And this early morning rhythm set the stage for everything that followed. Walk into a 1960s classroom, and the first thing you notice is the simplicity. Rows of wooden desks, each etched with years of names and stories, sat beneath large chalkboards that dominated the front wall. The floors were polished to a shine, carrying the familiar scent of morning cleaning, and long corridors held neat lines of coat pegs where scarves, caps, and satchels hung in perfect order. There was a quiet hum to the building at this hour, a school gently waking up, warming slowly as pupils filtered in. What many forget is how much these post-war schools relied on their pupils. Staffing was minimal, resources modest, and expectations remarkably high. Children didn't just learn in these rooms. They helped them function. Today, schools have support staff for nearly every task, from preparing halls to organizing materials. But back then, many everyday jobs were simply handed to pupils who accepted them without fuss. It was a different rhythm, shaped by routine and shared responsibility, and it created an atmosphere that defined the school day from the very start, setting the tone for the duties that followed. Before the first bell even echoed through the corridors, the school was already alive with small footsteps and determined faces. Morning duties were an unspoken ritual, carried out by pupils who arrived early, breath misting in the cold air as they hurried inside. You could smell the school hall long before you reached it, a mix of polished floors, damp wool coats drying on hooks, and the faint chalky scent drifting from classrooms not yet warmed for the day. Register runners were often the first to set off, gripping envelopes of paperwork as they dashed from one building to another. At just 8 or 9 years old, they moved with surprising purpose, weaving through chilly corridors, and feeling oddly important, as though the school depended on them, and in many ways, it did. Then there were the hall monitors, a role that came with a quiet sense of pride. They checked coat pegs, straightened stray items, and made sure the corridors were tidy before teachers arrived. In the assembly hall, helpers stacked chairs, placed hymn books neatly on benches, and prepared the stage as the sun crept through high windows. Inside the classrooms, the caretakers of the morning got to work. They organized chalk sticks by color, dusted boards, swept away crumbs from yesterday's lessons, and tidied rows of desks so everything felt ready. The cold metal of radiators hummed to life beside them, offering a hint of warmth as they worked. These duties weren't chores. They were small badges of trust. Children carried them out with a seriousness that feels almost surprising today, especially when so many of these tasks are now handled by staff. But back then, this early morning rhythm shaped the school day long before lessons began, setting the tone for all the responsibilities still to come. Here is something almost everyone forgets. The real work of a 1960s school didn't pause when the lunch bell rang. In fact, midday was one of the busiest times for pupil duties, especially for those chosen to help keep order in a school that relied far more on children than equipment. Dinner queue organizers stood proudly at the front of the line, guiding younger pupils, keeping things moving, and making sure everyone waited their turn. It sounds simple now, but at the time it felt like managing a tiny crowd, especially on cold days when the smell of warm lunches drifted through the corridor. In a corner near the hall sat another responsibility: the lost property helper. Most pupils didn't realize just how much responsibility they carried as they sorted scarves, gloves, satchels, and forgotten jumpers, trying to reunite items with their owners before the afternoon began. Outside, playground spotters kept an eye on things, not as enforcers, but as quiet messengers. They noticed issues, fetched staff when needed, and helped younger children who felt overwhelmed in the busy playground buzz. With no modern systems or handheld radios, the entire flow depended on these small but vital messengers. Back indoors, book trolley carriers rattled through corridors, delivering reading books between classrooms. The trolley wheels squeaked loudly on polished floors, and every delivery felt like carrying something important. And on unpredictable British days, window-checking assistants made the rounds. A sudden gust of wind or a burst of sunshine meant a quick dash to adjust windows in classrooms scattered across the building. These duties, tiny as they seem, kept the school running smoothly. A teamwork system built long before today's technology, dependent entirely on pupils who simply got on with it. As the final lesson ended and chairs scraped softly across the floor, most people today would expect children to rush straight home. But in the 1960s, the school day didn't finish when the bell rang. Instead, a quiet second shift began, one built on small routines and shared responsibility. The first task was often tidying the chalkboard. Pupils wiped away the day's lessons, tapping chalk dust carefully into the tray, then lining up fresh sticks so the next morning would start clean and ready. Nearby, others straightened the rows of desks with surprising precision, nudging each one into perfect alignment as the shadows lengthened across the classroom floor. In the library corners, chosen helpers dusted shelves, gathered scattered books, and made sure reading areas looked inviting. It was slow, peaceful work, the kind that made the building feel calm after a busy day. Out near the playing fields or the hall, pupils packed away sports gear, collecting balls, folding bibs, and setting everything neatly in its place for the next group to use. Even that carried a sense of pride, as though they were caretakers of something bigger than themselves. And before heading out, children helped prepare the classroom for the next morning, stacking chairs, checking supplies, and giving the room one last look to make sure it felt ready. Today, these tasks are done by staff, but in the 1960s, pupils did them without complaint. It was simply part of school life, and these end-of-day rhythms created a feeling that school belonged to everyone who learned inside it. Looking back now, it is easy to see that these duties were never just chores. They were quiet lessons woven into the school day. Every small task, from organizing books to helping tidy a corridor, taught pupils a sense of responsibility long before they understood the word itself. There was a subtle pride in being trusted, a feeling that you were part of the school's heartbeat rather than just passing through it. Many people still remember the tiny thrill of being chosen as a class monitor. It wasn't about power, it was about belonging. You felt seen, valued, and somehow a little more grown-up as you carried out your tasks with care. And the memories linger in vivid fragments. The smell of polished floors after lunch, the soft echo of your footsteps as you walked through a quiet corridor, the steady tick of the classroom clock as you finished one last job before heading home. These moments shaped teamwork, independence, and a community spirit that stayed with pupils long after they left those wooden desks behind. In truth, these duties didn't just prepare the classrooms. They prepared the children, guiding them gently toward the next stage of growing up. When we look at schools now, it's clear how much times have changed. Modern rules, detailed safety practices, and dedicated support staff mean pupils no longer carry the everyday responsibilities that once shaped the rhythm of a 1960s school. Childhood is viewed differently, too, protected, structured, and carefully guided in ways that would have felt almost foreign back then. Yet those old duties, simple as they were, left a lasting mark on the children who carried them out. Maybe those tasks were small, but they taught us lessons that stayed for life. Wait, if you grew up in Old Britain, you'll want to see what I couldn't include in this video. I've posted the deeper story and extra memories on WhatsApp channel. The link is in the description. Hoin os tere. What duty from your school days do you still remember? For more of these unbelievable memories, tap the video on your screen. The 1970s stories are something else. Don't forget to subscribe.